Hello there, and welcome to the basement. This most recent episode of Ahsoka, the fifth episode titled Shadow Warrior, was the most amazing piece of Star Wars we've gotten since the purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney in 2012. Period. For me. Um, there was so much in that episode that was awesome, but the part of that episode that I want to talk about in this particular video is the fact that I think that wasn't just Anakin Skywalker we saw. I think that was Anakin fulfilling his destiny as chosen one by bringing balance to the Force by becoming, or I should say, fulfilling the role of the father from Mortis. Now, before we get into the ways and whys and wherefores, please go ahead and hit that like button on this video. And when we're all done talking about it, let me know what you think about what we talked about in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, why don't you go ahead and just subscribe too while you're at it. Just click, click, click. Good to go. But all that being said, let's do the business. So, I believe Anakin is the father for a few reasons. One, when they first encountered the gods on Mortis, those being the father, the epitome of force and balance, the father himself being in perfect balance between light and dark. Then there was the daughter, who is the epitome of the light side, and the son, who is the epitome of the dark side. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happened in the arc, but suffice it to say, for the purposes of this video, the key thing is that the father wanted Anakin to replace him because he felt that that was the true destiny of the chosen one, was to bring balance to the Force to fulfill the prophecy by fulfilling the father's role and maintaining balance that way. Obviously, Anakin disagreed because we all know what happened. Now, setting all that aside and moving on to the next bit of evidence is when we go into the flashback scenes in Ahsoka. Well, actually, first of all, when we go into the world between worlds in Ahsoka, one thing that I've heard brought up is how it took a lot of time for them to find Ahsoka. Like, they were talking multiple sweeps, and there was frustration with Carson Tev and all that stuff. So how the hell did she stay alive? Well, that's part of the reason I believe Anakin is the father. I believe, and this part is probably the biggest stretch out of everything I'm going to talk about, admittedly. But I believe that since Anakin is the father, he was able to basically place Ahsoka's body into suspended animation, so she didn't need to breathe, regardless of whether she was underwater or not, and then ushered her soul into the world between worlds for the discussion and the final lesson that he felt he needed to teach her. That lesson I talked about in the last video I put up. If you're curious about that at the end of this one, please feel free to check that out. But I believe he ushered her into the world between worlds because that's where he now resides, and he's maintaining the balance in the Force from within the world between worlds in the role of the father. That's the first piece of evidence that I'm going to put forth. Next, when he gets around to chopping that path out from under her and dropping her into her memories, and continuing the lesson that he was trying to teach her. In that first one, when they were on Ryloth, you saw him flash back and forth between Vader when he walked off after talking with her the first time, and of course at the end of the Siege of Mandalore, after mentioning that he didn't remember this battle, and there's a reason why, because he was up on General Grievous's ship while Ahsoka, having already left the Jedi Order, was going with the clones to take care of Darth Maul. But the main point of that being, when they were done talking there, he got frustrated and fed up because she was basically carrying the load of guilt for him turning into Darth Vader, among other things. Um, basically, she felt that everything was her fault, that her legacy was that of destruction and death, just the same as her master's, since he turned into Darth Vader. However, Anakin was having absolutely none of that, decided you've learned nothing, walked away, turned around, and then whipped out a red-bladed lightsaber, kicked her back into the world between worlds after swinging their swords back and forth a few times, And then she was back to being full grown Ahsoka. He comes strutting through, flashes between himself and Vader a few more times. And then, lo and behold, he's got the gray skin and the Sith eyes going on strong. So he is now Vader, pre losing the high ground. The full strength Vader that the Emperor wanted on his side. The one that would eventually be powerful enough to beat the Emperor. This is what was marching at Ahsoka at this point in time. So, of course, he said live or die. They proceed to have their fight. He proceeds to allow her to win. Let's not get that twisted. In order to teach her the lesson he wanted to teach. He allowed her to take his saber. And she had to make that choice. And she, for a second, it looked like she had Sith eyes too. I have to go back and check that out because I'm not sure. But if it did, that's awesome. But she made the same choice that Luke did, rather than making the choice that Anakin did. Anakin chose death, and he got it, and doled it out to millions over the course of, 19, 20 years. Well, actually, that was just until the Death Star exploded. Over the course of about 25 years, 26 years, he doled out death to millions in the suit as Darth Vader. Ahsoka, however, in that situation, made the same choice Luke Skywalker made. She tossed the saber away and chose life. And at that point, Anakin took a deep breath, stepped back, did one of these deals, and poof, he was back to his baby blues. Vader gone. Perfectly balanced between the light and dark and able to control both. He is the father. And then, of course, at the end, he sends her back into her body and, she gets rescued. And on we go from there. But that is why I believe he's the father. He showed during those whole conversations that he had all of Anakin's knowledge, obviously, but also demonstrating there in that final fight that started in the memory of the Siege of Mandalore and then came to its conclusion in the World Between Worlds. And that was actually the World Between Worlds. He demonstrated his full control over both his light and dark sides. Therefore, he is the father. For me. Obviously, like I said, Dave left it open to a bit of interpretation, but that's my interpretation. It's the one that makes the most sense to me, and that's why I feel that's the way things are. Let me know what you think, though. Again, please tell me in the comments below, and while you're at it, go ahead and like this video, and pretty please subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you find out anytime I drop any of this content. But all that being said, have a great day, and like I always say, there's always a good time to be had when you're chilling in the basement.